you need to work hard. There's no shortcut to success. Have a stand and a say, or sort of a signature attitude towards how you do your work. So, because people will know you for how you present yourself. It's great to work in multi-diverse teams, and communicate with a multi-diverse team is becoming a very important tool when it comes to practicing creativity.
Hi, my name is Masha Tisa, and you're listening to the Creativebulb podcast. The Creativebulb podcast is a podcast that helps you get to your full creative potential. As always, I'm always in a journey to get people who are doing amazing stuff. And today I have such a person. And to be honest, she's one of the few female creative directors we have in Kenya. She's the founder and creative director of shopnanjala.com. Our guest today is called Teresa Lubano. She'll be talking to us about her journey, how she started, what she's learning, and then she's also going to be talking about e-commerce. So if you're interested in venturing into e-commerce, or you have these ideas of starting an e-commerce shop, you're going to get a couple of tips from this recording. I'd like to do a special mention to Midundo Online Media. You know, if you're looking for a place to get East African conscious music, and just to know what people are doing around the East African region for amazing shows, you can listen to an online radio called Midundo Online, which is your show for East African conscious music. So, ladies and gentlemen, without wasting much time, I'd like to welcome Teresa to the podcast, and I hope that all of you guys are going to learn a lot from this recording. Welcome, Teresa, to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much, Marcia. Excited to be in this forum. Honored as well for you to invite me to actually speak to you.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay. So I've been looking at your profile. I've been following you for a while, by the way. One of these days I was saying, one of these days I'll interview you. So I'm so happy that you are able to accept the LinkedIn invite and you are able to be here in this podcast. I don't know, how do you always describe yourself? If someone asks you who's Teresa, what do you say?
Wow, that's an interesting question. So I'm a passionate designer. I think that's the first thing. I think design is like almost playing God. So one of those people who love the idea that I practice something that I really love, and I loved it since childhood. I describe myself as a multidisciplinary designer, but I also have a love for nature. And I think we should be inspired by it. I'm also an illustrator. I love botanical illustration. I've just gotten into it. And yeah, I'm also a mom with two lovely kids.
Nice. Okay, so you're saying you're a multidisciplinary designer and you've always known that ever since you're a child. Would you tell us what are some of those things as a child? Like, that means design is something you knew as a child you'd always wanted to do. You didn't want to be a lawyer, you know, those things, those other dreams.
It's funny you say that. Yes. So I think the word design was not in my mind, but the fact that I loved art and beautiful things was there from the very beginning. So I'll just track like a couple of examples. When I was in nursery, and I got to find out this much later, like when I was 12, my mom actually showed me a picture of an actual book of my report card in nursery. And one of the comments that the teacher had made was that Teresa is shy, but loves to draw. So that was sort of from infancy. I loved to, get into this creative world of drawing, and I loved color and, beautiful things. But then also it just followed me through school. So in high school, I took art. I got an A in art. I also went to pursue a degree in design at the University of Nairobi, which I excelled. It was upper class honors. I'm also doing a master's in design. And throughout my life and career, I've always celebrated the creative arts in many ways. And also, of course, I have invested time to understand the industry in many ways. So also mentioned earlier, just how to enhance my skill. Not just in advertising, because that's where my background is. I've worked for an advertising agency I've been in the advertising industry for about 18 years, but also just in other ways, like I know how to do calligraphy. I used to do a lot of, calligraphy writing for certificates from when I was in primary. I do my own cards, like I make my own cards if ever there's an occasion. So it's little things that I've done in my life that actually celebrates the creativity in me. And it also goes into things like fashion,
Yeah.
style, how my home looks. So I don't see design as one thing. The way people say I'm just a graphic designer, I feel
Yeah.
like design manifests in everything we do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I also
yeah,
feel like that's also my story in a way. Because most people that I've actually
yeah.
talked to, you find ever since they were children. Because for me, I used to do crafts, I used to decorate our class. So it's always been the story, and then it kind of adds up. Before you know what you're working on, eventually you get some clarity as you move on. So I think from what I'm
Correct.
hearing from your story is you didn't have that conflict because for me, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but then I knew art was that other thing. So I went to campus and did film production and animation. Did you by chance have any like conflict or you're conflicted in any way in your journey to choose whatever it is you
Yes.
wanted? Yeah.
So, yeah. So, very interestingly, yes. So, one of the other things that I love is biology. So, I really wanted to be a doctor.
Oh,
In fact, in my mind, I pictured myself as a plastic surgeon.
okay.
Again, to make people look pretty. But yeah, but I think what happened was it was at that time I was disappointed. So, I missed like a point to actually going to
Mm,
practice medicine.
yeah.
But my second choice, which was design, was equally as good. And I remember having a conversation with my parents, and I was telling them, I don't mind going to do design. I really also love design because
Yeah.
it was either or. But of course, I was shattered that I couldn't go practice medicine and I was called to do design.
Yeah.
But now when I think about it, I think I am happy where I'm at,
Yeah.
where I did pursue what I really, really did love and was
Yeah.
passionate about.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with you. Because I think the biggest challenge is always people thinking like design related courses, you don't need to be that smart. Medicine, if you're doing something like medical, you have the grades. But design, I think the more you continue learning about art, you're like, you really need the brains. There's a lot. It's not just painting. Even painting, there's a lot of. So artistic people are smart people in a way. You agree?
I think so. I think so. I think
Yeah.
I think the talented genius comes with intellectual intelligence. It's just a shame that society only accords sort of reverence to
Yeah.
people who are book smart.
Yeah.
But I think also having a talent smartness is equally, should also be upheld in the same, nobleness or platform or pedestal as any other intelligence, because there are different types of intelligence. And I
Yeah.
think more as we continue to live in this world, we are realizing that, everyone has been blessed with certain talents, and if someone is really good at something, they ought to be celebrated as being geniuses, because that's just a different form of genius manifesting in a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just a stereotype. It'll change with time. And I think we're
Yeah.
seeing the creative economy is being spurred because people are appreciating now the creativity aspect of intelligence.
Yeah. So you mentioned now after going to the University of Nairobi, so you've been in the advertising for around 18 years. Uh, would you just like, would you just now maybe give us a highlight? What exactly were you doing during that period? And then what are some of the things you've learned from advertising?
Mm. So, like any, doe-eyed junior, say creative, because I just, popped out of campus and I was looking for a job. I really had big, lofty dreams for myself. So I wanted to work for the biggest advertising agencies, and I put my application everywhere. So I rose up the ranks from a junior graphic designer. I remember starting my internship at KTN, became a, graphic design and Capital Colors. Right now, the agency, I don't think it exists. But yeah, went into experiential marketing, became a senior creative designer, then joined another experiential agency. I think you guys know EXP,
Yeah.
one of the best experiential agencies in Africa, actually. And then I then went to Seven Brands, which is where I spent 8 years, the last 8 years of my career in advertising. And for me, what I loved about my journey is it was through the whole chain from learning fundamentals all the way up to being the creative lead, to pitching and writing strategy decks for corporates and brands that would like to create demand for their products and services. So for me, the learnings are many. I mean, for one is that you need to work hard. There's no shortcut to success.
Yeah.
Another thing is that have a stand and a say, or sort of a signature attitude towards how you do your work. So, because people will know you for how you present yourself. So, for example, if you're good at graphics, be the best. If you're good at animation, be the best, because those are the people who make it. Considering it's such a niche career, you almost need to be extremely good at it for you to be recognized and for people to approach you with work. The other thing that I've noticed and I discovered quite late in my career was it's great to work in multi-diverse teams. And the previous agency I was in, it was an agency that has footprint. It actually still exists. It's an agency that has footprint in the UK. That's where the headquarters of the agency is. However, they do have other offices in Bahrain, Jordan, Oman, and of course in Nairobi to represent the Africa office, and of course South Sudan. So what that did is that I was exposed to different creatives across different markets. And you realize that with a diverse team, and also just appreciating that multicultural context enriches your experience as a creative, where you're able to work collaboratively and more efficiently, because you're pulling ideas from different people who are, have different experiences. So, I mean, for me, it's just three things: work hard, be the best at what it is you do, because everyone's looking for the best right now, and value for money, and of course inclusivity in terms of being able to work with a multi-diverse teams is becoming a very and communicate with a multi-diverse team is becoming a very important tool when it comes to practicing creativity, because collaboration is key in this industry, and you must be able to work with others. So I'm not really a big champion of solopreneurs when it comes to the creative field. I feel you miss out on the larger pool of experience, the collective networking, the collective expertise that a team would bring.
One of the things that I really understand about advertising, I haven't worked in the advertising industry, by the way, but one thing that I know is it's a very high pressure zone. Like, the output has to be very fast. Just like you said, there's a lot of competition. And you've also mentioned at some point, you are creative director, meaning you're managing some creatives. What are some of the things you've learned about managing creatives? Because the whole thing of solopreneurship, sometimes it's also because people... they find it either easier to work by themselves. What are some of the things you've learned about that? And how are you able to get an output real quick in the agencies? How are you able to be sane during that period?
Wow, that's an interesting question. Trying to figure out how to answer quickly and efficiently. So I think one of the things that is important for a designer to grow is for you to actually demonstrate that you can manage a team. Because remember, in the advertising world, the brief is not one thing. It's always a brand wants a pool of things, like say a brand package of items. Say they want a logo, they want social media posts, they want brochures, banners, they want a TV, a radio ad. So one person cannot successfully do all that, right? So as a creator, I'll just speak from a creative director lens. So one of the things that you must be able to do as a creative who is essentially being in charge, has been given that opportunity to be in charge of a team, is to be able to work with people. You must be able to work with people. And that means you have to be switched on from a communication point of view. You must be able to see ahead and also be able to plan. So you must be a project manager, a good communicator, and also be able to see what the vision, the ultimate vision is, and articulate it for your team to execute. So yes, one of the things you need to look for is people who actually are experts in their territory. So, for example, working with good copywriters, ensuring that you're able to articulate the brief to them for them to actually see your vision, because the creative director drives the vision. And then, so I, as a creative director, I'm also a graphic designer, because I need to be able to sketch, draw, do a mood board, do sort of templates of what it is I'd like to showcase, whether it's a web design, whether it's a brochure layout or a poster, or even a photo shoot for a campaign. I must be able to articulate it, and then of course understand who is needed to produce all this. So you can imagine you're planning a whole thing, a whole brand campaign. You must be able to understand that all these dynamics need to work together for you to actually then say, aha, here is the final work. What do you think? As a pitch process. And then therefore, once they pay you, you're able to then see it through. So there are many, it's a multi-diverse skill set. You must be able to understand your materials when it comes to production of physical things like modules or structures for say exhibition. You must be able to also understand the virtual aspect, the digital aspects of campaign, which is how are powerful ads made on social media that can, deliver the communication in quick fire, time like 20 seconds. You must be able to understand the sort of people who produce these comms. Is the animation produced via CGI, or is it meant to be shooting live things, or is it going to be a blend of both? You need to understand many dynamics of advertising. So I must say it is a mishmash of many things, and it also takes experience for you to get to that point. And that's why you can't just wake up and become a creative director unless you're a super genius and you're just exceptionally talented. However, most people who become creative directors have actually gone through the full process. They've understood packaging and graphics. They've understood principles of TV advertising and creating radio spots. And they've understood script writing and so on and so forth. There are many aspects, including management, managing people.
Which is
also becomes a skill that you learn. So I mean, and I think it's not for everyone, I must say. I mean, and particularly, I do know, and I'm yet to meet, there are very few creative directors who are female because it is a demanding career. Particularly when you're right at the top, when everyone is depending on your word. A client is trusting you with millions of shillings, to deliver on a brand campaign that will create demand for the products and services that they like to sell to their audiences. So I think if you love high adrenaline pressure and you're motivated by it, I'd encourage you to pursue advertising to the very top. However, if you feel you want to focus on just creating, which is the studio aspects, being a graphic designer, being an art director, then yes, that is also great, because then you're sort of saying, I just want to be with my machine, and work on my graphic skills, and that's fine. Not everyone, it's not for everyone. That's what I mean. But it is for me. It was a satisfying thing to do, and I really, from that, I got to learn how to manage a team, and also I was growing a business, which is the agency I was working for. So I popped out to actually now focus on my business and to focus on me. And I'm really appreciative of the formative years of my career in advertising.
Yeah, so you're there for 18 years, but you've really tried with it because the high adrenaline. And then now you left advertising. Why did you leave advertising, and what did you start doing now at that point? What informed your decision to leave? Because you're doing so well. You're one of the few female creative directors we know of. Why did you leave advertising when everything was okay for you?
So many things. One is, I think COVID really opened my eyes. I think it was, you can imagine the high pressure. You have kids in school, kids now are no longer in school. So I think COVID was part of the epiphany, if I may say, in terms of a catalyst of the epiphany of, you know what, it's never that serious. Because I at some point I also had a mental breakdown. But I think that wasn't sort of what spurred me to exit. What spurred me to exit is that I also wanted to grow. So I think when you grow into your career, there are certain times, like I think some people it's 30, for some people it's 40, for some people it's 50. But you actually just want to take a pause and see how else to grow yourself. So for me, I went back to school in September last year. And because of that, there was a clash between my work and school. And I decided to just take time out from advertising, because I really felt going back to do my master's was important for me at that time. And I'm grateful for it, because now I'm a scholar and a researcher as well in the advertising field. I'm also growing myself, because I think it's important in life not just to be giving. As a designer, we give a lot, we give our souls, literally. So sometimes you also need to look at yourself and say, how do you want to also grow and also sort of self-love, So too much adrenaline, too much pressure sometimes can break you. And sometimes you just want to actually sit back and say, how do I also grow myself as regards to growing others? But the beauty is, I'd also started my own brand. It's called Shop Nanjala. And when I was already working, I was sort of also stepping into the gig economy. And therefore, it was like a soft landing. Even when I left college, when I left advertising and went into college, I still have Shop Nanjala that I'm working on, and other interesting things. Like I still do projects for people in advertising. They sort of commission me or hire me to contract me to do for them advertising or experiential marketing for them. So yeah, so those are the core reasons. And I think it was just about time. I'm 40, so it was just about time.
It was just about time for your life to begin.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you mentioned you had Shop Nanjala then. So I'm interested in knowing the story of Shop Nanjala just from the beginning. Which year did you begin Shop Nanjala, and what informed your decision? And then, so that when you left advertising, so you had a soft landing. So let's begin from the beginning. Where did Shop Nanjala start? The
Okay,
idea.
so it's very interesting. I mean, for me, there's something that happens. I keep telling people this. There's something that happens when women get pregnant. I don't know if and I'll just be honest. I'll put it out there. It needs to be studied more. I don't think it's studied enough. It's like you're at your most intelligent at the time when you're pregnant. So that's just one part of it. But why I actually started Shop Nanjala was simply because I'd been working in an advertising agency, helping big corporates create demand for their products. And for me, when I looked around, I realized that there were other people who didn't have that monetary power to actually do that, like an approach an agency and do it. So it started like I was just trying to give back to the Juakali industry, where I saw people, and for me, I loved also plants. So I looked at people in the Juakali industry. I was like, you know what, these guys really, really work really hard. They're in the hot sun, they make their products. But who helps them market their wares? The government really doesn't do it, really. So for me, I started working with artisans, literally. Like I went to the roadside, bought some plants, and this guy was so excited. I remember he was working for someone. He's like, please be buying your succulents from me, So I started slowly amassing my own collection in my backyard. And then all of a sudden, I was looking for people who make pots. All of a sudden, I was looking for people who make, metal stands for putting your plants on a pedestal, etc. And I realized one thing. One is I realized that Shop Nanjala was just bigger than selling plants. It was literally a platform for access to markets for Juakali artisans, just giving them the exposure that I felt they needed. Because I was a designer, I had that power. I had that power to actually create a platform, an e-commerce platform. At the time, it was unheard of for an individual to actually create an e-commerce platform. Usually it's big corporates. I think in Jumia and Sendi were just waking up. I was there by myself with my own little resources from advertising, built an e-commerce website from scratch.
Which year was
and
that?
started onboarding. That's
Which year?
2015. 2015. So, I mean, of course, anyone that discuss about e-commerce are like, what's that? Like it was hilarious. Like, I was like, okay, fine. I mean, and because I had knowledge of digital marketing, built it. But the core reason was I just needed to expose their work because they had beautiful work. They're on the roadside. By tomorrow, of course, they're bebwad by city council, or even a road has pitted, your business folds, So for me, I felt as I did my work for corporates, I was also, doing my plant thing, which I love, but I'm also the product, because it's packaged with other products that are from the Juakali artisans. I was also sort of exposing their work. Remember, their work besides just lacking visibility, is that they also lack an enhanced digital expertise to also onboard their products online, right? So we hear of Jumia, but who onboards their products on Jumia?
Yeah.
Normally it's the digi-savvy people. So I just felt, you know what, let me do this. in my small sphere of plants and nature. And then also and give them access to market. So it was a simple reason that and I'm just going back to the guy I first bought my first succulents from. I consistently bought plants from him, and we became sort of partners. And right now he has his own nursery. Like, he
Wow.
stopped working for someone, and now he has his own nursery. And he's called James. He was a young 18-year-old, and right now, he can say Shop Nanjala they were supplying us with their plants, and it's part of the reason why he grew. And I think that for me was a very satisfying story. And I'm really happy that I'm doing something to just, enhance the economic power of artisans. Because, I think relying on just bypasses is one thing, but I think we live in a world where we are able to sell our products beyond, just the one space we're in. We're able to sell products to the world. And Shop Nanjala is proof of that. We have sold over, I think, 5,000 products on our website,
Wow.
very interestingly. And most of these products are bought by diaspora, buying products for people in Kenya, foreigners who are coming to live here, high-end individuals who are interested in plants and gardening. And I think for me, soon people will get accustomed to shopping online, and I think we're already seeing it. And I must say that it was an opportune time, at that time when I started the e-commerce platform, because right now it's just up and up. My market is growing. I feel like COVID particularly accelerated the purchases on my website. Like, there were lots of people who are at home and they wanted to beautify or improve their homes, so they were able to actually purchase on my website.
Wow.
So grateful that I started a worthy cause. It's more of like a worthy cause to me, rather than a straight up profit-making business.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's a good testimonial, especially from one of your first clients. That's James. I'm hearing a couple of things. First of all, you've mentioned creatives are used to giving. You need to take time to grow. I think also another thing I'm also hearing from your journey as well is there's a giving, but when you're doing something for yourself and helping someone else, you're actually more fulfilled, as opposed to you even feel like your growth, it kind of gives you. So I feel like all of us need to have that thing that you're giving, that someone can say, hey, Masha, because of what you did, because of what you've done something in my life, you've created an impact. Using our creativity for purpose.
Correct.
That's the thing.
So yeah, I think right now we're living in a world where we need to be cognizant that we ought to be building sustainable businesses. And what sustainable businesses means, it's just that instead of thinking of growth, like profit making, we should be thinking of inclusivity inbuilt into our affairs, and practicing sustainable things. So sustainability, inclusivity, and growth are mutually reinforcing in the business. If it's not happening, then you're sort of not really cognizant of what's happening in the world, which is climate change, and therefore, and that's why conducting a business that has social impact is such a good thing, because even if you're looking for funding, people will sit back and listen because they see you're impacting your community. It's just not putting money in your pocket and not taking care of or not being cognizant of what's happening in your environment. So yes, very fulfilling.
Very fulfilling. Congratulations. So here you are, 2015, you decide to begin Shop Nanjala. So you set up an e-commerce website. One thing that wasn't clear, did you design the website by yourself, or you had someone else do the website for you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So you're doing this thing called e-commerce that many people at the time did not know of. So I'm just interested. Of course, you had your experience in advertising and the likes. Give me a gauge of what it is you had, the knowledge you had before, and what are some of the challenges you had at the beginning. And then what are some of the different tips you have for e-commerce now? Because now it's a common trend. Now, nowadays, everybody's kind of has an understanding, but they still don't know how to navigate. What are some of the tips you can give for someone else now, since you've been there in the game for close to 6 to 7 years?
Okay, so yes, I did design my own website. Very interestingly, I
Wow.
mean, I was a creative director and I had the time. I mean, for me, it wasn't. I was not starting a business out of pressure. So it
Yeah.
took me 6 months to build, which is it was pretty long, and
Mm.
that's because e-commerce was still young. It was at its nascent years at the time. But I think one of the things that I remember was I worked with a very good team there. So as much as I did the front end and sort of shared what the wireframe would look like, I actually got to work with a very good team that understands how e-commerce websites are built. So they helped me with the integration. I picked up the theme from WooCommerce. If you know, there's Shopify, there's also WooCommerce.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't easy. I remember particularly the integration of the payment platform. I was doing a lot of vetting, and that then is when I settled for PesaPal because they were all in one. They had M-Pesa, they had Visa, MasterCard,
Yeah.
and of course, the Airtel Money, etc. So it was sort of not hard because it's something that I do. So I think if I'm to highlight just some of the skills you need, I think there are many, and I'm blessed because I had experience going for me. I was already in the field of graphic design. One of the things that graphic designers ought to know is to build a website, right? You need to be able to understand how a wireframe or a front end of the wireframe is created, imagery, copy, things like that, for you to actually work with the developer, for you to sort of then join minds to bring it to life. So, but I think also just interestingly, I'd also studied IMIS. I have a diploma in IMIS, which is stands for, if I'm not wrong, Institute for Management in Information Systems. It's a UK based certification, a diploma. I had done it for a year, and I think from there I had gotten a little experience about programming, which is, of course, coding is part of programming. Other things that you may need to know is the pure graphic design, because I needed to market, I needed to do the logo, to do the advertising on social media, because without social media, no one will ever know you exist as a website. So that also was just from the fact that that I was a graphic designer. But I just want to mention something here about e-commerce. So and I actually got highlighted in an UNCTAD, that is UNCTAD, the 2022 report. And there's a little box and I'll send you the link of this article. It's actually a report where they highlighted Shop Nanjala, and the box that was highlighted was an interview I had with them, where I mentioned to them that um, for you to launch an e-commerce platform, you need to have an advanced digital skill set, a highly advanced digital skill set, whether it's you or your team.
Uh-huh.
It's important because there are many facets to e-commerce.
Mm.
And I'll just mention a couple. Like, you need to think about, the back end, front end, things like the inventory, how to upload your inventory or your products onto the platform, the integration of payments, register a proper business, the legal aspects to that, design, of the
Yeah.
wireframe, how, because people are buying images. So if you're just gonna just take pictures with your phone badly, snapshots at home, and
Yeah.
upload them, chances are you're underselling the product you're
Yeah.
selling, because you're cheap, because people are buying an image. You need to upload the best image, so even just fundamentals of photography are important. Content creation is another one. If you can't create content, how will you sell? Or if your team can't create content, you
Yeah.
will have a beautiful website there that's just existing, and there's no traction, there's no conversion as well, without footprint. And I'll just give you statistics. For every 1,000 people who step into your store, only 1% at the very most, as in that you're lucky, will convert.
What?
So for you to get yeah so for you to get yeah, that's the reality. E-commerce, in fact, it's less. In
What?
fact, it's actually 0.3, I think,
Okay.
percent. So it's only the Amazons who are pushing 1%,
Yeah.
2%. But generally, you need to create a funnel in a manner that you have thousands of people hitting your website for you to actually convert. Because, yeah, there's competition. You're
Yeah.
competing with physical and virtual. So, and people now go to Google and they compare you. So I think there are lots of skills that are required, and then also an understanding of, what makes people tick, and also who is your audience, because you could be
Yeah.
selling a great product to the wrong people,
Yeah.
and get frustrated and just say, you know what, I'm not interested. So I think
Yeah.
for me, e-commerce is a highly it's a challenging field. People think it's easy. I know so many people call me and tell me, she's, I want to start an e-commerce. How did you do it? I'm like, well, e-commerce, just setting up is the easy part.
Yeah.
It's selling on the platform that's the hard part. So I'll send you that link.
Yeah.
Just for you to get a feel. And I think also it's important for people to read reports about trade and the future of trade, because e-commerce simply sits in that space of people in the future will be transacting online. The other thing you had asked, I'm not sure if I've exhausted that question because there were three questions you'd asked. What was the other part before the tips? You'd
Uh,
asked something else before the
uh,
tips.
I'd ask whether you designed it by yourself and also the tips for e-commerce.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So
for tips, I think I have written an article. Again, I'll
yeah.
send you a link. So just top of the hat, I think there were 7 things that I think one required for them to excel in e-commerce.
Yeah.
And I'll just highlight them because I wrote little notes because I don't remember what I wrote, but I do remember the bullet points. So one was logistics is your business. So that's the one other skill that I haven't mentioned that you need to understand that. So if someone buys something in your website, that's just the first step, right? So to get it to them is another step. So imagine you buying something from Amazon.
Yeah.
You will buy it, you love it, but you'll have to wait for it. It's the shipping detail. And unfortunately, we live in a society where our our addressing system in general, post office or otherwise, or just even getting to know where someone lives is not really the most advanced, right?
Yeah.
So that is a big issue in Africa generally, where the addressing system does not work. So you almost need to create a way of ensuring that that item gets to the customer. And I think you've seen platforms like Copia, they have
Yeah.
their own fulfillment from Ika. You have Jumia who, will get it to you whenever they want to get it to you 1 month later, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So for me, I think logistics is something you need to think about. In fact, what I recommend for everyone is to own their own logistics. So, for example, hire your own piki, get your own vehicle if you have the resources to, because it's gonna be a pain point, and customers are not patient. You can imagine someone has bought something they haven't seen, and they want it as quickly as possibly to be delivered to them. So, ensure that it's integrated into your website at cost, even if it's an estimate, and then ensure it gets to the customer. The second tip is content is king. I think I'd mentioned this
Yeah.
earlier, where content creation becomes part of your business. So regularly have, posts, whether it's content creation, whatever you're comfortable doing, whether it's video content, whether it's posts with images, and make them quality images of that, not the lazy, proverbs and and quotes
Yeah.
all through. And lazy posting really doesn't take anyone anywhere. So it's literally, you need to plan the content. So content is king, because the more you talk about your product,
Yeah.
and it's not really about your product, it's about the value. You need to be talking about the value that this product will bring. Like, for example, I sell plants. It's sort of things like, did you know questions like, did you know the sunflower has a concept called heliotropics, where it's always facing the sun. Every time it'll always face the sun and follow the sun, etc. Or it's things like fruit tree seedlings, plant a tree, etc. So content needs to be valuable content for the end customer, and that's why you need to really know your customer. The other thing, and there's so many things about content, I just can't go into it. Digital marketing, I've mentioned it must happen. So whether you're comfortable with emailing, which is apparently one of the most powerful ways of marketing, so always sending a newsletter regularly, or even just planning your content calendar for what you're posting on a week-on-week basis, that's great. Some people have gotten their calendar covered for 6 months. Great for them. They are really organized. It's pretty difficult, but it's not impossible. Another thing is data is Lord. I think, so yeah, data is Lord. It's like the everything. And why I say this is because it's only by you running an e-commerce shop that you actually get to know this. Um, when you look at your backend, it tells you so many important things. For example, it'll tell you things like top sellers, like in this particular time frame, you have sold these things, and therefore you're able to know you should stock up more on these items. Or it could tell you things like, my target audience is coming from this region, So data is, it's called data analytics. It's a whole industry where it helps you optimize your website. It leads to things like, SEO, search engine optimization. Sorry, I'm getting into sort of now the jargon, but the idea here is that tracking your data is important. That's what it simply means. It means when you track what your data is telling you, or you're able to sort of interpret it, you're able to then enhance, your website and sort of get to understand what ads should I put out there, becoming more efficient by just not guessing and saying, hey, people will love my, my soapstone carvings. People will love my, potted plants. People. No, it'll start telling you. It'll just start telling you for real. Soapstones are not really working because people. It's not the gifting season. Perhaps focus on plants because it's raining. Because if you carry on for a year just tracking, and another year you're able to even start drawing parallels. Like, what are people buying in April versus what are people buying in December? And so on and so forth. And I think for me, I think everyone, and this is sort of, a principle, everyone should learn something about data, just data analytics. And of course, integrating it into their website. The other thing, and this is the fifth thing, is obsess about your customer. So, this one I think is just, I don't even know what to say, Marcia.
Yeah.
Remember, you are actually selling to people who have graciously come to your website.
Yeah.
they are trusting your platform. They're trusting you to deliver. So if you can't obsess about your customer, chances are, so if you drop the ball, for example, on your customer, chances are, A, they won't even recommend you. B, they'll ask you to reimburse them their money. C, there's a ripple effect. C is, they won't even talk about you, and therefore you'll not get extra customers, or they'll never come back to buy from you. So I think for me, if you're not good with people, get someone who's good with people to always ensure that they are keeping tabs with their customer. Some people use AI, they have chatbots. Some people use physical, like we as Shop Nanjala, we have someone dedicated to calling someone and asking them, just telling them, even chatting, we chat them first. We say, thank you for shopping Nanjala. We have gotten your order number XYZ. Be sure that we will be delivering your package in the next X days, or even 2-3 days, and we will confirm once we dispatch. That is so reassuring.
Yeah.
Then when the product is en route, you also need to communicate, just like the way you track on FedEx if you shop on Amazon or DHL. We will then, of course, tell you we've dispatched. We hope you're home. The rider has your telephone. Within the hour, it should be with you. If it's something within Nairobi and its requirements, and so on and so forth. And even after the purchase, you ask them questions, like a few days. You're like, here's a small link. Please give us your review, or please give us feedback. And I think it is critical that you actually ensure all your customers. And let me tell you for a fact, Shop Nanjala doesn't have many customers. We have many repeat customers.
Okay.
And you see, and that is, so someone shops once, they'll come back a few months later to shop again and again. Like for us, in fact, we're on first person. It's a relationship. So we're like on first person, like, hi Marcia, thanks. So we even know them, like, hi Marcia, we got your order. Thank you again. We'll be delivering on, so it becomes a relationship, and that's what you want to develop for your business. Not, done with one customer, next, you've forgotten your next on, you're moving on to the next. I think for me, that's a very important point of how to actually run an e-commerce shop. And I think more people need to do it. And that's where most people also drop the ball. They really, once the sale is done, they really forget about, a beautiful experience from the word go all the way to and feedback. Then the second last point is embrace innovation. I think this one I have already spoken about. Learn, learn data analytics, learn SEO. YouTube is such a fantastic platform to start.
Yeah.
There are too many videos, 1 hour videos. Just get a tutorial and learn. Learn what search engine optimization is all about. Learn about data analytics. Learn how to create beautiful content and so on and so forth. So where your strengths aren't, you just learn. Where you're strong at, enhance them. And I won't belabor because there are so many things to learn in e-commerce. And the final one is hire the best. I work with we're a small niche team, we're a small sort of agile team, but I work with people who are really good at what they do. So for me, I think that's for every business. Just hire the best. Hire someone who's smarter than you. When it comes to bookkeeping, make sure you're keeping your books right. You don't want KRA to come for you. When it comes to customer experience, make sure you have a client liaison who's very, understands your customer, is eloquent. Like in my business, we sell a lot to expatriate. Some of them don't even understand Swahili. So you can imagine you can't be there speaking in Swahili, or or riders who go there calling and saying, "Uko wapi? Ati, ati," "Niko hapa, kuja," So there's a certain image you want to portray as a brand, and every brand has its own image and culture. So for us, we hire people who are smart at what they do, and of course that also enriches and enhances the experience for our business. So I think those are the 7 tips, and I think there's a whole blog I wrote about it. And funnily enough, the idea around these tips was interestingly, it's tips that I drew from a pitch competition which I won.
Wow! Okay, congratulations.
It was a story, e-commerce story pitch, and it was being done by ITC. Anyway, the thing is, I won $1,000 worth of. It's a split for training. Our team was trained in digital marketing with an organization in Germany called Charicom. And of course, we got, the monetary funds to run paid advertising on our platform, which was really, really great. So thank you very much for ITC. That's International Trade Center. And they're called Ecom. Yeah, I think it's called Ecom. They're called e-commerce, something like that. So anyway, so I think really it's not for the faint-hearted, but it's a fulfilling exercise.
There's
considering everyone's pivoting to do. There's a lot of hard work, but also trade is changing. It's just like the way transport has changed, where before you'd have to walk to the bus stop, but now the vehicle comes to you. It's the same thing. So the idea is to be cognizant that as the world evolves, you evolve as a business.
Okay. So just briefly, you mentioned something about you need to really understand the legal bits. What are some of the legal issues that someone in an e-commerce platform is likely to encounter?
So there are no legal issues. Okay, so there are legal issues to be thought through. So one is, of course, you need to register your business and ensure as you register your business, you have a certificate of incorporation, CR12, MEMATS, etc. Because these are documents that you may need. Actually, you will need if you are to have a payment platform, a proper payment platform. Like to be linked to Pesapal, they need to know that you have these documents, that you're a legit business, but also that you have a bank account. So that's one, because you can't open a business account without being a legally registered business. That's one part. The other part is that trademark your stuff. Like Shop Nanjala is, I'm grateful. My sister is a lawyer. But anyway, other than that, I do understand the importance of copywriting your work. So I have a trademark license for my brand, which is Nanjala. It also has a 3D trademark. So not only is it 2D trademark, it's a 3D trademark with certain classifications. And that simply means that, if someone was to go out there and decide they want to purport or sell stuff in the name of Nanjala, I can happily sue them and I will win that legal, because I have actually protected my mark. And by virtue of protecting my mark, the way I package or the way I present myself to my customer in terms of products, that also becomes legitimately my I own that experience. I don't know if I'm making sense. So there's that part. Then there's also the other part, which is legally e-commerce platforms are required to pay 16%
Okay.
VAT to the government.
Oh, okay.
So yes, so you must register for an ETR machine, one like this. I think everyone knows what an ETR machine is.
Yeah.
And you would then remit 16% of your sales to the government. And that was a requirement that was passed, I think, in 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
And you must adhere to it. And then the final part, which is sort of something that just opened up as well recently in 2020, is that there's a Data Protection Act where you must adhere to, where you have, a data protection officer, simply meaning that you have also a form on your website that ensures your audiences that they're actually that their personal data is private and it's confidential, and that you will not share it to third parties, in just a nutshell. But it's a whole act that protects anyone who's visiting your shop, that you have put the required modalities on your website to ensure that, you're not phishing. I don't know if you know what phishing is, or there's cyber fraud, basically, where you're keeping people's records, like credit card details, and using them, and all sorts of funny things. So what we've done as Shop Nanjala is we've put that in our terms of and conditions. We sort of also have SSL sheet certification, which simply means when you search our URL, it's HTTPS. That S means we have a secure platform that does not allow fraud, and also protects your details, like credit card details, to be specific, when you transact on our platform. Those are important considerations, and they have legal repercussions. Should you be reported, you can go to jail, that you have been, passing information to third parties. You're not allowing people to opt in onto your platform. Even for us, if you're subscribing to our platform, we allow you to opt in or out. So those modalities are part of the Data Protection Act. It's a whole act. Any lawyer would be, who's a corporate lawyer, would be able to unpack it for anyone who's interested, or you could just Google and have a look at what it is. We try to adhere to those to the pact that was enacted recently. So those are the legal requirements in a nutshell.
There are a lot of issues, because I also love the fact that you said you trademarked your name, and also the copyright bit. So I know, aside from you helping other people like to sell their stuff, you also design your own stuff. Is that true? So those are the stuff that you copyright.
Yeah. So the thing is, with copyrights, it's really the mark, right? So the Nanjala logo, and so if that Nanjala logo appears on any product, and someone is to purport. So for example, someone says, oh, you know what? I can sell you that thing, and they go manufacture it with my logo, and I happen to know, I'm able to actually sue that person, right?
Yeah.
Also, if someone also opens a website that's similar to mine, and they just change like a letter, like for example, they go open Nanjala shop, nanjala.co.ke, and they go purporting to be me, that's also someone to sue. So there are many legal options. And there are many loopholes, but the idea is you're protecting because remember, your brand is a signature. It's something that is different from and unique from everyone else's. So just like the way when you buy a Samsung, you're buying a Samsung, you're not buying an Apple, right? And Samsung have their own way of doing things. So you can't go plagiarizing and making money. But of course, people do plagiarize. Like, I know there's made in China Samsung, but I think the scale at which they sell perhaps is something that, Samsung are not really, it's not worth them suing for, because they know people know the legit thing, and they deliberately buy counterfeit because that's what they can afford. But I think what's important to know is that, people like copying, people like plagiarizing, and you don't want that, because what happens is they deny you and your market. They're also purporting to be you. They're actually sort of plagiarizing your work. So that's not something that should happen. And that's why I think the benefits of trademark, and also you just need to own your own thing, because it is something that you've built over time.
Yeah.
Right? So you're all the credit, all the hard sweat, the hard and sweat that you've put, hard work and sweat that you put into it should be yours, right?
Yeah.
And not be taken away by someone else who hasn't put the hard work into it.
Yeah, I hear you. So you've really mentioned a lot of tips, and I think those are tips people are really going to listen to. So I'd like you now to direct us to books, places, people to listen to, schools to go to. There's a diploma you've mentioned that you actually did that really did help you, because I know you've mentioned there are a lot of tips we need to know. And you're like, oh, is there any place I can just go that I can get all that knowledge in one sitting? So would you direct us
That's
to such
interesting.
spaces?
Okay, so I think for me, what I'd say is, and this is sort of standard, because I think for me, there's no one particular place I can mention that will be exhaustive. So that's
Yeah,
one to answer your question. But I think in terms of your mindset, you must be curious. So
yeah,
always remain curious. I
yeah,
think for me, that's one basic, because there are people who want to know everything, but they're not just, they can't be bothered, you know?
yeah,
So if you're not curious, then I guess you won't really know,
yeah.
even if I was to give you all the book list. So that's one. The other thing is, to your point on where to start. So I think where to start is to hone that talent. So whatever talent that is that you have, it doesn't matter whether it's like I'll give my example. I'm so interested now in surface pattern design. So I even have another small brand that I started like
Okay.
a month ago, where I'm selling print on demand products that have my own designs on them. So what
Mm,
I get is royalties. I make royalties off the products I sell. It's
mm,
on Contrado. They're UK. It may be a little expensive because of the whole shipping cost, because they're being shipped from the UK. But what I've learned is that you almost need to learn the basics. What is surface pattern design? How to create beautiful surface pattern designs? How to apply them? You know what? Interpret them digitally if you're illustrating them, etc. So all those tutorials, I went through them. You know, 1 month in is when now you start showcasing perhaps your collection. Like for me, I've showcased a collection. It's called my first collection is the Alstroemeria. It's a plant species, and that pattern is is something that I keep changing. And
mm,
it's a collection of many patterns within just one, inspired by one plant. You can imagine. So
mm.
the idea is to go deeper into things so that you're able to learn, because people usually like touch and go. It's sort of the society we live in. Things
Yeah,
are super fast. You also think things happen super quick and you want to do things. But unfortunately, super quick doesn't sometimes translate to super good, right?
yeah,
So to be super good, you need to be super deep. So go deeply into things. And so forums that I'd suggest, going to YouTube. YouTube is my friend. Subscribe to people. So go on to people's Instagram pages, um, follow them, understand their process, because if they're good at what they do, most of the time they're really, there's a lot of experience that goes into what they do, and that's why they're good at it. So follow them and understand what makes them tick, and
yeah,
perhaps also embrace some of their methods. So follow people in Instagram. I can't name specifics because design is such a wild space.
yeah,
There are so many things. The other thing is listen to. So this is one thing no one tells you, that you need to know something about everything.
yeah,
No one tells you this. So you need to also be able to speak about politics. You need to be able to speak about culture, art, you know, even the sciences, biology. Like open your mind to just other things outside your industry, because life and the world we live in is very integrated now. So be exposed to other people you admire who are not necessarily in your industry. Don't just be
mm,
fixated in what you love,
yeah,
because and that's why for me, I can say I'm a multidisciplinary, because I know e-commerce, I know graphics, I know, illustration, etc., and I can also hold a conversation on almost anything, just because I've exposed myself to a lot of things. Finally, I think join network hubs that you admire. I'll give one which I really love. They're called Creative Nestlings. They're a
mm-hmm,
WhatsApp group. He's a guy called Dillion. He actually is in South Africa, but it's a platform that, for lack of a better word, they push the agenda of the creative economy in this continent,
mm,
Africa. And it's a WhatsApp group. You get opportunities, things like grants. competitions, whether there's pro bono work, you get access to, capacity building material, interesting information. So I think join networks like those, where you get to learn from other people, and I think, and then lastly, put your work out there.
Yeah.
Put your don't hide it. One of the things that people tell us about, what makes the West so powerful is because they document their work. That's a simple thing. Africans and Kenyans, I don't know, for lack of a better word, they're always hiding. Someone will copy my work.
Yeah.
What the democracy of the creative economy is such a powerful thing. If you're there thinking people will copy, then you're in the wrong industry, because in fact, because talent is an innate thing, it's in your mind. You can always keep recreating fresh content. So no one will, if you're good at what you do, no one can be able to keep up. No one can, be identical to you or produce the work you produce. So I think the more you put out there, the more successful you become. Because I'll give you an example before we close, because I'm seeing time is running out.
Yeah.
I have been putting my work for illustration out there, botanical illustration, because I love it, right? And I was doing it because I was learning, but I got approached by a company that is interested in working with me. And if I hadn't put out my work out there, they would never have approached me. You understand? Because I didn't exist. I wasn't known or seen. And I think that's the thing that people don't say enough. Africans, please start by putting your work out there.
Yeah.
Show us what you've got.
Yeah.
Because someone might look at it and they might be interested and reach out to you. Yeah, and I think that's what I can say.
Thank you so much. In fact, you really ended at a really good tone. Put your work out there, because people are scared of people stealing their work. Yeah. And ideally, even in design, you're always stealing from different places, and then you come up with your own original. So thank you so much for encouraging us. I know we are really going to have many conversations. So just really quickly, do you have any workshops that you hold that we can come and attend? You have so much knowledge. We need 3 years to unpack all that.
I know. So very interesting you say that. And it's very interesting you say that. So I'll just introduce one that I've just set up. On Tuesday next week, I am hosting the inaugural Design KE Spaces on Twitter. It's happening on the 24th of August, which is, I think, Wednesday.
That's
at 7 to 8 p.m. Wow. Okay, so you must join. I think what I'll do is I'll also give you a Prezi. So you need to send me details of your address. I will definitely give you a present from Shop Manjala. But on that day, we're discussing where the jobs at. So where are the jobs at in Kenya, or at least in Africa? And it's a big topic. It's a loaded topic. We'll be unpacking it. I have 1 or 2 speakers who are interested in joining. So should they join, you'll be able to hear from, the who's who when it comes to the creative economy. And we'll just be discussing what is it? Where are these creative jobs? Because I do know one of the big things that the youth are struggling with is employment. So to just touch on that. And that, I would say, is the one forum that I have where I'll be talking with anyone who's interested in the creative arts and particularly design. And I'll be hosting them monthly for now, but if the traction is good, we may be doing it every fortnight.
So what's your Twitter handle? What's the space that handle at the...
My Twitter handle is Teresa Lubano, which is Teresa. Lubano is Lubano.
Wow, okay. So looking forward to join the spaces and just learn a lot. I know as long as you're curious, there's always something you're learning every single day. And I agree with you. Thank you so much, Teresa, for taking your time to answer the many questions I had. But I know I have a couple more, but this is good for now. You've taken your time, and I really appreciate. Do you have a last minute advice? This doesn't have to be about e-commerce, just anything to anybody who's listening.
Yeah, I do. One person I admire, he's called Vusi Thembekwayo. Mm-hmm. He's a really good orator. He's also an investor. I think he owns his own investor company. He invests in businesses in Africa. And he says one thing. He says, you should start, just start. Like, start shabby, start scared, start tired, start broke, start whatever it is you need to do. Like, and I think for me, so many people hold themselves back because of fear, but that fear is what is making you not get ahead. If you think about it, the fear is what is the worst that could happen. There's nothing. You just learn. In fact, because business is a journey. You do this, it doesn't work, but you get to know how it works eventually, and you take a tangent. You continue working, it doesn't work, you take another tangent, it works. So I think for me, starting what it is you want to do is the best thing, because the worst thing is when you're old and gray and you're like, gosh, I wish I'd done ABCD. Wouldn't it be sad? Because you didn't really explore your full potential. So for me, if you have a talent as a creative, do start, do showcase, do show up, do share, do communicate it, do speak to people who may give you a leg up. Don't fear, because the worst someone can say is no, they won't beat you, they won't eat you. and also you get to learn and grow as you carry on with the journey. Thank you.
Much appreciated. Really good insights from you. Looking forward to check out your spaces and just follow you. People can follow you, and you'll send me all the links, so I'll just put them in the comment section so that anybody who'd want can get all of that. So thank you so much, Teresa. We've really made good use of time. I'm so happy. This time is really
Thank you so
helping.
much.